Hi, my name is Anjul Nigam. I'm very excited to be on the podcast Chai with Champs with Ritika Agrawal and wishing everyone the best.
Welcome to the Chai with Champs podcast. This is the center stage for South Asian cinema. I'm your host, Ritika Agrawal, and I'll be sitting down with Oscar-nominated producers, award-winning directors, actors, composers, influential film critics, and more who are shaping the future of South Asian cinema. Chai with Champs is sponsored by Sunblue Sound, a visionary audio production company that specializes in post-sound for visual media. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Chai with Champs podcast, Season 3. I'm here with the very successful and talented Anjul Nigam. Please join me in welcoming him. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I love my guests to introduce themselves. So can you tell our audience about who you are and what you do?
I am, my name is Anjul Nigam. I am not an alcoholic. I am an actor, a writer, a producer. I will be directing my first movie soon. And I've been in the entertainment industry for a very long time, over 3 decades. And am I forgetting anything?
A lot of things that we're going to dive into.
I'm a father of 2 kids. I'm married, been married almost 25 years. And I live here in Los Angeles. I've lived here for almost 36 years.
Wow. I can't wait to dive more into your 3-decade-long journey in the entertainment industry. I feel like you have so many things to share, insights and wisdom also for our audience. But before we get started and talk about how you got into film, who were you before the films, and what drew you towards storytelling?
Who was I before the movies? I was still the same person. I still went by Anjul Nigam. I went to NYU for acting. But before that, I guess if we want to take it chronologically, I started off wanting to be an actor when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I'd seen The 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston, where we're an immigrant family here in the States. We came to the States in the late 60s, my 2 older brothers and my parents. And we were never expected to be here permanently. It was supposed to be, my father was a math professor. It was supposed to be a 1-year sabbatical. He was coming to the States to do some research, but ended up getting a permanent visa. And we ended up staying here with a green card and all. And as we grew up in a small town outside of New Haven, Connecticut, a small town by the name of Cheshire, I was writing a world where we were kind of in a capsule in our home and in Cheshire, but in an Indian, culturally, religiously bent family environment, but also being exposed to westernization as much as it can be in a small town, suburban, mostly Caucasian environment. And balancing that duality is perhaps been one of my, most significant aspect of growing up.
Right.
So when I was 8 or 9 years old, going back to that, I saw The 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston. And I was watching my friends from our town playing cops and robbers and Indians and cowboys, and not our kind of Indian. I wasn't so specifically drawn by anybody's ethnicity or anybody's, heritage, but I was drawn by the power that Moses had in the 10 Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a moment in the 10 Commandments that really, really spoke to me. It's when Charlton Heston, as Moses, goes up to the mountain and he comes back having spoken and been touched with God.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes down and he's got this like presence about him. And when I saw that, I was like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
I want to have that presence. I want to do that. I want to be an actor playing something that's enigmatic like that, that
Yeah.
powerful. So I got a stick.
Mhm.
I peeled it, made it nice and clean, and I called it my staff. And as friends of mine were out there on the streets of our little suburban town playing cops and robbers, I had my stick and I'm like, and now you shall see the power of God. And I'm opening the Red Sea, which is our little green lawn in Cheshire, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And as the years went by, I kept on telling my parents, I'm going to be an actor when I grow up.
Yeah. How are your parents reacting to that when you said that you wanted to be an actor? And now this is the 70s.
This is, in the mid to late 70s.
Yeah.
Early 80s. I was fortunate in the sense that my parents came from a very simple perspective on what we did, which was whatever you do, do it with 110%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like been in my veins.
Yeah.
And, ever since I grew up. And as I got a little older, when I was 16, having spent the past 7, 8 years talking about I'm going to be an actor, not really doing anything about it other than saying I'm going to be an actor, I applied towards a summer arts program at a nearby university called Wesleyan, which was for high school kids in dance, theater, music. And I got into the theater on a full scholarship, and I was going to be there for 5 weeks during summer. But it also happened to be the summer I was 16, and I got my driver's license, and I got my first 3 jobs. I got a job at Marshall's. I got a job at the local grocery store called Stop and Shop. And I got a job at Dairy Queen. I had 3 jobs lined up that summer.
Wow.
And I was 16. And I had the ability from my parents had given me the permission to use the car as long as I could pay for the insurance. So I was really excited about that and not about the summer arts program. So I don't care about going to some arts program for summer.
Yeah.
And my parents sat me down. They're like, you talk about wanting to be an actor. You've been doing it for years, saying you're going to be an actor. Go and figure it out. See if you really want to do that.
Yeah.
So they convinced me. I always say they convinced me to be an actor.
That's huge.
So I decided to go for the summer program at Wesleyan for 5 weeks, a residential program. And I left there with this 110% commitment of this is what I'm going to do when it's time to go to college. I'm going to major in acting.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to get into the best school I possibly can for it. And a year and a half, 2 years later, when I applied for colleges, my top choice was Carnegie Mellon. That was known as one of the best at that time. NYU was my second choice. I didn't get into Carnegie Mellon's drama program. I got into their regular liberal arts school, but not their drama program. And incidentally, we'll come back to this, but I met a guy at that audition where we ended up spending the whole day together, auditioning, going in as teams and partners and stuff in scenes and stuff. And by the end of the day, you become friends with whoever you've been auditioning with. And I left that audition. It was, must have been spring of 1984. I also applied for the drama program at NYU that same spring or same winter, right before spring started. And when the admissions came and I learned that I didn't get into Carnegie Mellon's drama department, how frustrating that was. Full scholarship, a great scholarship from Carnegie Mellon, but not their drama program. But then I got into NYU and I was like, okay, this is good. I mean, going into the city.
Yeah.
And why I brought up that individual from the Carnegie Mellon auditions, I get into NYU fall of 1984. We're at registration. This is back in the day. There's no computers, no nothing. You go to admissions office. You stand in lines that are like 2 hours long, waiting to be registered. And I ended up running into the same guy who I'd auditioned at Carnegie Mellon with. And we're both like, oh, you didn't get into Carnegie either? That actor, drama major, ended up living in my dorm is Adam Sandler.
Wow.
So that fall, we both were dorm mates at Brittany Dorm on 10th Street and Broadway in in New York in the
Wow.
Village.
Wow, what an iconic time. I absolutely love Adam Sandler. It's funny because you almost bumped into him, right? That's amazing. And I think things just kind of work out when they're supposed to be. NYU is such a prestigious school, still happens to be one of the best in drama, theater, and film, and all of those aspects of entertainment. And you went in the 80s, and then you moved to LA in the 90s, which is a time for, the golden era of American independent cinema, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you were in this path, like what did you learn about the realities of the industry? And then through this path, how did you land projects like Grey's Anatomy, True Detective, and now Never Have I Ever as an actor?
It's important to recognize it's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just happen like, the 30-year success, overnight success, is 30 years. It doesn't happen just like that. I finished NYU in 88. In 89, just to give you a little perspective, Ronald Reagan was still president when I moved out to LA.
Mm-hmm.
His last few weeks of presidency were in January of 89. I moved out in January of 89. And I fell into some kind of strange positive luck. I got my first gig in less than 2 weeks of being in LA.
Wow.
I mean, I set up shop. I got a Chevy Nova I bought for $450.
What?
And I kid you not, a year later, I sold it for $400, like $50 less. But I
Wow.
had it for an entire year, put nothing in it,
Yeah.
no repairs, no nothing, but had it for a whole year. And it was what I called my point A, B car. It brought me from point A to point B,
Point
and
B,
that was it.
yeah.
And it didn't look great. It was, this tan-colored four-door Chevy Nova from 1975, and that was 89. So it was 14 years old, which isn't outlandish, but, wasn't the most attractive beast. So I bought a car. I moved into an apartment with, I was one of four, and it was in Hollywood. We could literally see the Hollywood sign from my bedroom. And I got a job as a waiter at a restaurant at the Roosevelt Hotel. They had a restaurant on the main floor called Stargazers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was ready to, do what an actor needs to do, which is pay the dues.
Yeah.
And however, in my first 2 weeks of setting the base, I ended up meeting an agent through my representation in the East Coast in New York, connected me with some people out in LA. And I met an agent who was very thrilled to have an ethnic actor. I'll never forget this. He's like, "Oh my God, an ethnic actor walking in my doors, and you're from New York?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "And trained at NYU?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh my God, excellent. This is great." And he signed me like literally as soon as I got there. And it just so happened within 2 weeks of me being in LA, there was a TV show called Growing Pains
Mm-hmm.
with Kirk Cameron, Alan Thicke. That was like one of the top sitcoms of the time. And I had walked into my new agent's office. Jeff was his name. And Jeff was like, "I'm so glad you came. I need you to take your headshot to Warner Brothers." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And at that time, there was no emails, no submissions via whatever Castnet or whatever it is, and breakdown services. So it was delivery. And I happened to be an actor that walked into my agent's office, and he didn't use what was known at that point as go-between delivery service,
Mm-hmm.
probably because it was too expensive. So Jeff had me bring my own headshot to Warner Brothers, and I dropped it off, and I went back home. And this is before I had a pager, before cell phone days. And sure enough, on my answering machine, it was a blink of one message.
Mm.
And I played it, and it was Jeff calling saying, "You have an audition tomorrow for that show, Growing Pains."
Mm.
And I was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." Like it works like that. I dropped off my headshot at Burbank, in Burbank at Warner Brothers, and I'm coming home to Hollywood, and boom, there's an audition. This is great.
Yeah.
So I got this message. I had to go back to Burbank, pick up the sides, the pieces of the script, that I'm auditioning for. And back then, again, there was no fax machines,
Yeah.
no nothing. I'm going back to the audition. I mean, where the audition is the next day, picking up the material, coming home, and I'm, rehearsing it. Next day, I have the audition. And the casting director echoes kind of what Jeff had said to me, which is, my God, you're a New York trained actor. And I was like, wow, this New York training thing like has a little bit of resonance with people here.
Yeah.
And you're a New York trained actor. It'd be crazy to take you from theater training and put you in a sitcom. Like, no. I love sitcoms, and sure enough, I end up doing the audition and she's like, can you come back for a callback to meet the producers? Like, sure. Like, what else do I have?
Yeah.
I got to go work at Stargazers, So I end up going to the callback and I get home and there's a blinking message on my machine.
Yeah.
And it's Jeff, call me as soon as you get this. ASAP. And I was so naive. I didn't even know what ASAP meant. All I knew it was some letters like, what is ASAP? Found out later on, as soon as possible. So I call him and he's like, you got the job. Like, I got the job. What are you talking about? He's like, you got the job. You're starting tomorrow. And it's a read through with the whole cast.
Yeah.
And this is 1989, and literally Growing Pains is the sitcom of its time.
Right.
And I'm the lead guest star.
Yeah.
And it's less than 2 weeks of me being in LA. It's literally the 13th day of me being in LA. And I'm like, wow, this is easy. What the hell?
Yeah.
So the next morning I go to set and there's the regular cast, Tracy Gold, Kirk Cameron, Jeremy Miller, Alan Thicke, Joanna, I can't remember her last name, but it's the whole family from Growing Pains. And there's 3 guest cast members, myself and Dick Van Patten. And this episode was about Kirk Cameron, who's the lead kid on the show, gets a job at a convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
And guess who works at that convenience store? Myself and this other African-American actor. And it's run by a bigoted boss played by Dick Van Patten. Mm-hmm. And that's what the storyline was. Kirk gets a job and the ethnic employees, the black guy and the Indian guy, they get pushed from the day shift to the night shift because the bigoted boss favors the white kid.
Right.
And so we're there, we do a read through, we go through the next couple of days of rehearsing the show. And the day we're supposed to shoot it, sitcoms at that time, and I know a lot of them still do it, you rehearse 4 days, and on the 5th you shoot in front of a live audience and also without a live audience.
Right.
So on the 5th day when we were supposed to shoot, Kirk Cameron got sick.
Oh my gosh, okay.
So it turned out that on my first gig in LA, I ended up getting 2 weeks of work. It was supposed to be just 1 week. And not only that, I had spoken to some other NYUers who had just moved out here, including people like Molly Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
She and I were friends from our NYU days. And I was hanging out with her and some other friends from NYU. And they're like, you know what you need to do? You got this gig on a top sitcom. You need to send your picture to like agents with bigger wattage.
Yeah.
And so I sent my picture and resume out to several people during this time, knowing that I already have Jeff. And I started getting calls from all these agents who are like, we'd love to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
So in my week while we're waiting for Kirk Cameron to get well again, I started meeting with all these agents.
Yeah.
And I go into the office of what was known as Harry Gold and Associates. Harry Gold ran the agency. He brings me in and he's like, you're working with my daughter on Growing Pains this week. I'm like, your daughter? He's like, Tracy Gold. She's my daughter. I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, everybody's been raving about you on the show. And I'm like, oh, cool. He's like, so I'd like to come and watch when you guys are back up and running. I'd like to watch you at the taping of the show. And we should really have you consider being a client here.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So here I go back home. I'm like, in less than 3 weeks, I have a car. I have a job at Stargazers, but I'm not going to be needing that, is what I'm thinking as a waiter. And I have a apartment looking at the the Hollywood sign. And I have a job that's now 2 weeks. And I have the prospects of being with a good B plus level agency, not
Yeah.
the CAAs or the William Morrises of the world, but the next level down. And Jeff, he's going to have to deal, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we do the recording. The next week, we go back into production. We shoot the show, and Harry Gold is there watching his daughter shoot her episode, and pulls me aside, and he's like, "We'd like to represent you here at Harry Gold." So sure enough, I had the last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is the easiest thing in the world. LA, are you kidding? Why the hell did I even go to NYU? And then began the next 4 years of being a unemployed actor, waiting tables, messengering, bartending, catering, and, sporadically getting gigs here and there. I did a movie called House Party 2, not 1, Part 2. Did another episode of Growing Pains. I did a show called Parker Lewis Can't Lose. And I did a show called Murphy Brown. And, I was getting these gigs, but so sporadically over 4 or 5 years, and eating a lot of ramen noodles and tuna. And, because ramen noodles, you could go to the 99-cent store and get 5 for $1.
Yeah.
And tuna can, is 2 for $1. I mean, you're literally making 2 to 3 meals a day for $2. And I was waiting tables and hating it with passion, getting fired from every restaurant job I had for being, sometimes for being a waiter with an attitude, sometimes for what they call stealing, which was me eating a mud pie in the freezer, when I should be paying for it.
Yeah.
It was a lot of what I can say is I was truly paying the dues.
Yeah. Before we continue with the episode, I want to give a huge shout out to our official show sponsor, Sun Blue Sound. If you've not heard of them already, they are an incredible audio production company that specialize in post-sound for visual media. They've worked on a range of projects, from ad spots to television series to films that have been streamed on Amazon, Tubi, and in film festivals across the nation. The coolest part, this episode that you're listening to or watching right now has been mixed and edited by Sun Blue Sound. Ravi, the owner, is a dear friend of mine, and I can vouch that he truly cares about his clients and embodies their tagline, engineering sound for visionary creators. If you're looking for audio mixing or sound design, reach out to them directly at team@sunbluesound.com. That's TEAM@sunbluesound.com. Now, back to the episode.
So in this process, I'd gone through, unfortunately, a lot of hell in not only my employment situation and my credit cards raking up, incredible amount of debt, and also going back east to Connecticut, to New York, and there's this preconceived idea within the Indian community, as you can imagine, where you've gone to college and you have a degree in drama. Now what? And my answer is, well, now what? Now I'm going to be an actor. That's what I'm going to do. I am an actor, and there was something that I had picked up from some people that was very important to me, was preserving the energy and not like always talking about like, oh, I just had this audition for Seinfeld or for whatever it was. It wasn't dispersing the energy. It was about containing it. And I started living that philosophy of what I do is my business, and my path to success is my business.
Right.
And I'm going to preserve it and contain it. And I'm going to, take charge of that energy, because there's so many things that are out of our control. What you can control are the things you really, want to preserve in a way where there's not negativity surrounding it.
Yeah.
And I was going through a process where I was watching some people that were becoming hugely successful. At that time, Adam Sandler had also moved out to LA. And he had just gotten Saturday Night Live like 2-3 years after moving to LA. Molly Shannon was beginning to get some good solid opportunities as well. I had mentioned an African American actor who was one of the guest roles. He actually had one line in that episode of Growing Pains. He was one of the convenience store employees, and he and I became actually very good friends. We'd go to auditions with each other because we had nothing to do. We were unemployed actors. I'd go in his auditions, and he'd come to mine. And that actor went on to win an Academy Award. Is Cuba Gooding Jr. And what I found was there was no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
Talent is a given. That's a given. You got to operate from the givens. You can never talk about, well, he's talented, or well, she's talented, or the fact is we're all on the same plane.
Yeah.
We're all talented. You got to start from that. That's a given. We're all committed. We're all dedicated. We all have 110%. We all have this drive in us to become the best we are.
Yeah.
And we're coming from that base. There's going to be things that are out of our control, and that, you can call it luck, you can call it fortune, you can call it fate, whatever it is. But it's a combination of all of it. It's the intersection of fate and the 3 Ps, the patience, the perseverance, the persistence, the patience, and the perseverance. In addition to the base, the talent, and the commitment. And was getting very frustrating where you see people who you're coming up the ranks with get to another level.
Yeah.
And you're waiting tables. And I never was a person who, I don't believe in the word regret.
Yeah.
I don't ever believe in the word regret. Like people would say, do you ever regret you didn't get a double major? I got a degree in drama. That's it. I got a major in acting. Nothing else. I didn't get a business degree. So do I regret it? No, I don't regret it. I am who I am.
Yeah.
And my path might have been different. Who's to say it would have been satisfying?
Yeah.
And during those times, those hardship years, and not to say the years when you become a working actor and a working professional, they're not met with hardship. There's always freaking hardship. Always hardship.
Yeah.
I mean, if you talk about the Buddha, right? It's pain and suffering. It's part of our makeup as humans.
Yeah.
Right? And you got to look at it philosophically, because how do you get through it? And then, let's get out of that space of the paying the dues. What ended up happening in 1994, I had my manager in New York was still, I was still connected to her. And she called me up right after I had gotten news that one of my 2 older brothers, one of them had gotten into a car accident in Baltimore, where he lived. And he was okay, but he was, recovering in the hospital and stuff. And I was making a determination to fly back like the next day.
Yeah.
And my manager in New York called me at that time, and she's like, if there's any way you can come back east to New York, I have an audition opportunity for you that I think would be a really good gig for you.
Yeah.
And it was doing Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice.
Mm-hmm.
And, theater is not what I was coming to LA for.
Yeah.
I was here for movies and TV.
Exactly. Yeah.
Theater was like, that was New York, And not that I left behind my roots, but it was like I wasn't finding money in theater. But this was a professional gig in equity production, equity meaning the union that governs theater productions. And it was going to be at the Royal Shakespeare Company in London, in addition to the Goodman Theater, which is in Chicago.
Yeah.
And in Paris and Germany, and in New York, we were going to do a workshop. So it was a 6-month gig. And I was like, wow, what an opportunity to work with a really well-known theater director by the name of Peter Sellers.
Yeah.
And so I went to New York I went back east to see my brother who had the car accident. Fortunately, he was well. But I also dropped into New York and had the audition. I met Peter Sellers and I got the gig.
Mm-hmm.
And that summer of '94, we started the workshop in New York, right there across from the Public Theater. And the cast consisted of some amazing people, when one of them was a classmate of mine from NYU, who was also part of the drama program. And he and I reconnected after 4 or 5 years now. He was a year behind me at NYU, was Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Mm-hmm.
And we reconnected and we ended up working on this gig for another 6 months together, and continued to do some other work beyond that production. But what that project gave me was the confidence to walk into a room and say, hey, let's figure out if we're right for each other.
Yeah.
Rather than, hey, can I get a job, please?
Yeah.
And that mindset is what has, I believe, become part of my, makeup.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, let's sit down. Let's see if we're good for each other.
Yeah.
And if we are, then, hey, we may work with each other and see what we can do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make magic if we are good for each other. And, I started making a living as an actor from that point on. And the work would, fortunately, give me an opportunity to go different places. In the subsequent years, I started flying to like Australia and getting certified to scuba dive to do a movie in Melbourne, Australia. Went to Costa Rica to do a TV show called Mowgli, The New Adventures of Jungle Book, shooting in Costa Rica for India.
I think I know what you're talking about. I must have watched it. Yeah.
And then doing shows like ER, NYPD Blue, Nash Bridges. It goes on and on. I started doing a lot of TV shows, pilots.
Yeah.
And then I met somebody who I got engaged to eventually and married, who is my wife.
Yeah.
She was raised in the States but had gone to India, was in the choreography, dance, and ultimately the Bollywood scene.
Yeah.
And had moved back to the States and was involved in independent film as a producer.
Yeah.
And I was watching what she was doing, and this is now the early 2000s, right before the dot-com bust.
Yeah.
And I'm watching her and I'm like seeing her put together money for an indie. And she was driving from LA to Silicon Valley where the dot-com industry was blooming.
Yeah.
And she was putting together money for this movie. And I'm sometimes driving up there with her and watching them, her and her producing partner and director, put together this movie that they made with Dimple Kapadia and Gulshan Grover and Vinod Khanna and a few others. And it was this, a movie about a Indian professor who has an affair with an American-raised Indian kid in college. And it was a beautiful movie. But I saw her take this movie from A through Z, and I'm like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to take that opportunity to take charge, because in this time period, as I'm working as an actor regularly, I started doing gigs that I felt like were getting very frustrating for me, in the sense where it was out of my control. I did a movie with Bill Murray, which we shot up in Calgary, Canada. And I was one of the supporting leads. It was an amazing cast. Bill Murray, what do you call it? Jay Moore, Catherine O'Hara, and a whole bunch of amazing talents. And I was one of the very nice supporting roles in the movie, and directed by John McNaughton, who had done Mad Dog and Glory with De Niro and Bill Murray, and Wild Things with Bill Murray and Kevin Kevin Bacon,
Mhm.
and I was like, wow, this is an amazing director, an amazing cast, and we shoot this movie, and right after that, I get this movie called Sheer Bliss that we shot in Aspen, Colorado. I'm another supporting lead role in that, and right after that, I get a studio movie called The First 20 Million is Always the Hardest,
Yeah.
and getting that movie was this series of like auditions and screen tests and finally getting the studio to approve me, and I'm one of the four leads in a movie with Rosario Dawson and Jake Busey and Ethan Suplee, and and it was about four guys designing a $99 computer,
Yeah.
and it was right before the .com bust, and we shoot this movie, and I was like, wow, I'm doing a studio movie in addition to doing this Bill Murray movie and this other movie in Aspen, Colorado, and I was like, wow. Now I'm like going from TV to movies. This is great.
Yeah.
And back to back, the first one got stuck in litigation, the Bill
Mm.
Murray movie, never got released. There's some litigation between Universal Studios and Canal Plus. The other one got stuck in, I don't know what, but ended up going straight to what was known as straight to DVD back then.
Mm.
And then the third one, right as soon as we finished shooting the movie, the .com bust happened. And since the .com era was integral to the storyline, the movie never got released. And it was a
Yeah.
studio movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell?
Mm.
You know, here you are building a career. You're looking at these opportunities as, okay, now you're going to the next step. And granted, I'm making a decent living doing this. I'm
Yeah.
not, waiting tables and eating mud pies in a freezer, but it was frustrating.
Yeah.
It was very, very frustrating. And as I watched my girlfriend, fiance, and wife at that time put this movie together, Leela, it was called. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to take charge
Yeah.
of movies. And just so happened, this must have been like 2003, 2004 by now. I got a script for a movie that was about an Indian family that moves to small town USA in the year 79. And I was like, wow, it was written by a very talented, but for his first time writing, his name is Gregory Scott Houghton. And he had written this story based on his roommates in, I think, college at that time was an Indian guy who'd been threatened, grown up in Oklahoma, in Ponca City, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
and had been threatened by his parents that if you don't, stop from being too westernized, we're shipping you back to India and banishing you. So he'd grown up under this threat, and that was essentially the story that Greg had written. So I got the rights to the story. He approached me to come on board to play the dad in the story.
Yeah.
And I knew that in order to get it made, I really got to take charge
Yeah.
and produce it. So, and I hadn't produced yet, but I'd seen it and
Yeah.
I'd watched people doing it, and including my wife at that time. I mean, including my wife watching her do it at that time. So I was like, this is something I want to make my maiden voyage as a producer.
Yeah.
So I optioned the rights. I spent a little bit of time doing a rewrite of the script based on my own authentic Indian immigrant experience of growing up in Connecticut. And then my first order of business was to cast the movie with a name talent.
Yeah.
And, the opportunity I saw was the movie is about an Indian family and their son who's 10 years old who has a puppy love experience with the girl across the street.
Yeah.
And he looks at the girl's dad as the hero dad that he wishes he had, rather than I'm playing the authoritative Indian immigrant dad who's very much of a traditionalist. And the opportunity for us to cast with a star name lay in the girl's dad across the street.
Yeah.
So that's who we started focusing on in terms of casting it with that. And I actually went to, at this point, Philip Seymour Hoffman has started getting some legs. He had already done Boogie Nights. He'd already done, Mr. whatever it's called, Mr. Riley. God, it's on the tip of my tongue. But he was, Twister. He'd been on an upward trajectory, and I reached out to him, and he was in the midst of just starting his own independent movie called Capote,
Mm-hmm.
which he would go on and win the Academy Award for.
Yeah.
But he was like, "What you really got to do." He's like, "I can't commit right now. I'm busy doing my own, and I'm probably committed for 2 years on that. But go get a director."
Yeah.
And then, package it with name talent. So I had met a director by the name of Paul Quinn at a party. And I'd seen his movie right before it, a movie called This Is My Father, which starred James Caan and John Cusack and Aidan Quinn, which is his brother as well, Paul's brother. And I'd fallen in love with the movie. And I was like, this is the kind of movies I want to make. Intimate stories, family stories, and feel-good stories. So I met Paul Quinn, the writer-director, at this party, and I was all over him like, oh my God, I love your movie. This is my father. And I left the party thinking, God, I wish I had exchanged numbers with him. And I left it at that. And 6 months go by.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pounding the pavement, trying to figure out how I'm going to get this movie made. And I get a call from Paul Quinn.
Yeah.
And he's like, I heard you're selling your Mercedes. And what had happened is my wife and I had moved from this apartment we were living in Studio City, and we bought a house, and my wife did not want to take the baggage of this old classic Mercedes. And it was a beautiful car, but as far as my wife was concerned, it was a car that always broke down. But Paul Quinn, fortunately to his credit, he recognized that it was a classic, and he wanted to see the car because he was a big fan of these Mercedes 280 SEs. And he came by and he looked at the car, and fortunately he didn't buy it because it was a piece of junk that was breaking down often. But while he was there, I'm like, I have this script and I love your movie, as I said to you 6 months ago. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. And he kind of like, was mediocre about what he was getting himself into. But he took the script. This is a hard copy script back then. And within a few days, he calls me and he's like, we got to make this movie. And what had happened is, and a spoiler alert, in our movie, it's about a kid who's being threatened to be sent back to India.
Yeah.
And by the end of the movie, we actually banish him because his sister is getting too westernized and making out with her boyfriend in front of us.
Yeah.
That the boy gets banished before he gets too westernized. And what had happened for Paul Quinn was he was being raised by his Irish immigrant parents outside of Chicago.
Yeah.
And his oldest brother, Declan Quinn, who's a phenomenal cinematographer, and his brother, Aidan Quinn, both of them older than him, they were, outside in the suburbs of Chicago. His Irish immigrant family was trying to preserve the Irish culture and heritage as much as possible. They ended up sending the oldest one, Declan Quinn, back to Ireland.
Oh, wow.
So Paul was like, we got to make this movie. This has touched him in a very personal level.
I think it's so unique, though, because it's not just about the Indian immigrant families. It's kind of
about,
universal truth,
It's about
right?
the out of town, fish out of water, right?
Yeah.
Which can be anyone. It could be someone who's from New York City who moves into suburbia, or vice versa. Someone who's grown up in, the rural parts of America and ends up being in a urban school, right? It's fish out of water is all the story's about. So Paul Quinn comes on board to direct the movie. He and I do another draft of the script where he added a bit of an experienced writer coming in, telling personal stories already, adding his creative input into that. And we set out on the journey of putting this movie together. We brought Paul's brother, Aidan Quinn, on board.
Yeah.
And through that, we were able to bring Marissa Tomei on board, and we thought we had financed a $4 million movie. But unfortunately, what started at that point with a packaged movie, where some name talent came on board, some no longer were involved, but started a 10-year journey of looking for money.
Wow.
And I didn't know what I was doing. Look, I'm blue collar. I have a degree in acting. I don't have a business degree in finance or economics. I don't have production experience as a producer. And so for me, I was learning it as I was going. And what ended up happening is we finally found somebody who was a equity investor who was ready to invest money on what we were trying to do was a $4 million movie, but he was ready to come in with enough capital to make a $2 million movie
Yeah.
with a combination of his money, some tax rebates, and some loans. And we were able to finally shoot this movie in 2014.
Right.
That was our 10-year journey, getting the financing, and no longer had Aidan Quinn, and sadly, I hate to say it, but Paul Quinn, the director, got ill, and ultimately he passed away.
Oh my gosh!
By the time we completed the movie and were going to market with it, my producing partner Frank Lotito ended up stepping up to plate and becoming a wonderful director. It was his directorial debut. And we made the movie, and we ended up going on a journey of 25 film festivals and winning all kinds of audience awards and jury awards and stuff like that. And we released the movie in 2017.
Yeah.
And, got like New York Times Pick of the Week, and Barack Obama, who's an Indophile, is my understanding, saw the movie and started following me on Twitter, what was known as Twitter at that time. And, was an amazing experience to build relationships with people who make movies, with named talent who make movies, and with financiers who are interested in getting behind movies that matter.
Yeah.
And, my next several movies were with people I had. Cuba Gooding Jr., his directorial debut, I was the lead producer on that.
Yeah.
It starred Cuba Gooding Jr., an Academy Award winner, and another Academy Award winner, which was Richard Dreyfuss, and Famke Janssen and Catherine McPhee. And we put that together literally in 2 months.
It's incredible.
And my third movie was a movie that we put together it was starring when I came on board. It was made for about $4 million, and they'd been in development with it for a couple of years. I came on board, brought some investors to the table, and we greenlit the movie in about 2 months' time. And Alec Baldwin was starring in it with another actor. It was a two-hander movie like Training Day with two cops on one night of training called Crown Vic.
Yeah.
And Alec was two-star in it by the time I came on board, got the movie greenlit with money. Alec had scheduling conflicts where he had a baby on the way, he had hip surgery, and he had Motherless Brooklyn to shoot with Ed Norton. And we had already lost the actor who was going to play the rookie cop, and Alec was going to play the veteran cop. And I literally had to go with tails between my legs to my financier, and I'm like, we appreciate the financing you've committed to this movie. However, we don't have our two leads anymore.
Yeah.
And he had just partially financed the movie I had just done with Cuba Gooding. And he's like, well, let's stay on track. I want you to cast this movie the way you believe it really needs to be cast. Yeah. And Alec stayed on board as a producer. And we ended up developing a relationship with Alec. And the next movie, after Crown Vic, we were at Tribeca with this, and Alec had an idea where he's like, Joel Souza, who wrote and directed Crown Vic, had an idea for a Western. And Alec is like, look, Joel has an idea for a Western. We'll have him write it. And you and I, Alec says to me, should produce it and I'll star in it, meaning Alec will star in it. And that was Rust. And that became the long, tragic journey that we finally were able to complete after a 4-year journey, getting that movie up and off the ground in production, having the tragic incident that happened, and finally getting it made and released last month.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank
that
you.
Was huge, yeah.
And in that process, Alec and I developed a strong enough relationship where we started a company called Persona Entertainment, the two of us, where our goal is to make movies that matter.
Yeah.
And we are doing my directorial debut that Alec will be starring in. soon, and I'll be able to talk a little bit more about it very soon.
I'm very excited about that.
All right.
Congratulations again on the directorial debut. I think that's huge. And
Thank
also,
you.
thank you so much for so transparently sharing your journey from going to acting school, being an aspiring actor to a working actor, and the struggles behind it. I think a lot of people don't openly talk about that. And I think it's huge. And then to see your career trajectory from TV to movies and studios and that feeling to now you wearing the producer, writer, and actor hat. If someone is coming to you in 2025, trying to pursue all of these things, what advice would you give to them?
Look, I think one of the advices that I think is important is defining your priorities and knowing that your priorities are going to change as time goes by.
Yeah.
When you're 18 years old and you're in college, your priority is college and getting through college and getting the most, being a sponge on that level. And, when you come out into the real world, maybe your priority changes and it becomes about getting work. If you've gone to acting school, maybe it's about getting work as an actor. But I think it's important to remove adjectives.
Yeah.
And when I mean adjectives, removing words like aspiring and working, it's more about I'm an actor.
Right.
It's what I am. I may not be working right now, or I may be working right now, but I'm an actor. I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm Indian.
Yeah.
And you don't have to qualify it. It is what you are, And sometimes it's just a wardrobe. Sometimes it's in your blood. Sometimes it's in your skin.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a part of your major organ. But it's makes you who you are.
Yeah.
And there's no apologies. There's no reason to ever apologize for being who you are and for being, having a rightful place to be in this industry.
Yeah.
You don't have to earn it. You are. You don't have to pay the dues to be it. You have all these successful people who've become overnight successes. They have a right to be there.
Yeah.
They found a way to be an overnight success within the times, whether it's through TikTok or an Instagram viral video, who knows?
Yeah.
They figured it out. And they get my respect for figuring it out within the times.
Yep.
And they don't have to ever apologize. No one should ever have to apologize for who you are. You don't ever need an adjective to say who you are. You're a producer, you're a director. You might be making your directorial debut or you're producing, effort, your first producing job. But this is what you're doing. You're producing.
Yeah.
You're writing.
Yeah.
You write. You might not be produced yet, but you're a writer.
Yeah.
You wrote that script, so you're a writer.
It's really about owning it. Also, I think we're in the age of DIY. Just do it. Don't wait for the opportunity. Create the opportunity yourself.
Yeah.
There's going to be a boom every single time, like you faced the .com and all of those things. And right now we have AI and so much, which, we can go on talking for hours about that. But I think the takeaway truly is that don't stop hustling. Keep doing it and reach out to the folks you really believe in and make that partnership and collaboration happen and just don't give up.
And look, I know you wanted to address some of the South Asian elements of it. Look, the South Asian aspect of it, that's our wardrobe.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's like if you say we got to promote South Asians, there's a question that goes with it as well, which is we're promoting South Asians, but at whose expense? Does that mean the Puerto Ricans and the African Americans or, the Asian Chinese are less than us? We're sitting here promoting South Asians are the best.
Yeah.
We're the best. We got to tell our stories, but at whose expense? No, what we got to do is tell human stories. To me, that's so important. Telling human stories, because guess what? When you tell human stories, they reach everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what you said about growing up Smith, right? It was Indian, but there were people in Ireland who were experiencing the same thing.
It's about first love.
Yeah.
That movie is about first love. It's about mentors, people who influence us, and people, growing up in a small town.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you so much for sharing your story with me. It was a pleasure having you. And I think you were so inspiring and have been one of the pioneers in the industry who have been representing us and continuing the work. So it was a pleasure having you. Anything you'd like to say before we wrap the episode?
Look, 110% commitment to anything you do in life. That's my big advice. 110%.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Chai with Chams podcast. If this episode sparked something in you, go follow us, share it with your friends and family, rate it, and subscribe for more. I will see you next week where I sit down with another incredible guest that's bringing South Asian cinema to center stage.